So do you wrap ribs when you smoke them? Do you not wrap ribs when you smoke them? I've done it both ways. And in this video, I'm going to be doing some no wrap ribs out on the Lone Star Grillz Offset. So yeah, there's always a little bit of push and pull when people talk about wrapping ribs or not wrapping ribs. Wrapping ribs can help accelerate the cooking time, make it a little shorter. It can also help in tenderness. When I do them with no wrap, one of the things I like to do is watch the temperature and also watch that moisture level, maybe spritz more frequently. But really first, got to get started with some good ribs. And what I've got here are a couple racks of spare ribs. I'm going to be seasoning these up with my brown sugar pepper rub. Now, I'll put a link up in the corner to the video I did on how to make that and down in the video description. Super simple rub, but honestly, use any rub you want. This is just what I'm putting on this for this video about no wrap ribs. And once these get seasoned up, they're going in the refrigerator overnight to let that seasoning soak in a bit. I'm just going to start getting a nice coating on here. These are big, they're kind of overlapping my tray here. And they're pretty moist on the surface, so I don't need a binder. Decided to take my shaker off, got a little bit of clumping there. You can see from the brown sugar, clumps up if you leave it in that shaker a long time. That's all right. We'll just spread it around by hand too. Go ahead and turn these over and get our bone side. I went ahead and I already removed most of the membrane here, got a few little bits, but I'm not gonna obsess over that. I'm just gonna go ahead and season this up. Sometimes it's fun to do the full spares, with all that extra meat up here. And any of these granules of brown sugar that are sort of solidified there, they're gonna start to dissolve as these racks of ribs start to sweat in the refrigerator as they accept the seasoning. Get a little bit more on our meat side here. All right, that's looking good. I'm gonna get these out into the refrigerator and I'll see you tomorrow out at the Lone Star Grillz Offset. Good morning. The Lone Star Grillz Offset is coming up to temp. I'm shooting for a temperature of about 250 degrees for the pit today. I'm burning hickory wood and I put a gallon of water in the cook chamber. The cook chamber can hold water right in the bottom of it, has a drain there, you can take it out at the end, so helps keep moisture in there. Let's go ahead and get our ribs on. I'm gonna put the meatier side of the ribs towards the firebox. So I'm gonna close this up and let these get smoking. So I'm cooking these ribs today to a state of tenderness. And because we're not wrapping them, it's a little bit iffy on the time. Could take 4, 5, 6 hours. We're just gonna have to wait and see. It's probably gonna be at the longer end of that range because these are full spare ribs. So I'll bring you back in about 2 hours when it's time to check these and probably spritz them at that point. All right, we are at the 2-hour mark. Temperature of the pit's about 265 right now. I put a split of wood in just a little while ago. I've added 2 splits of wood since we started with that base of 2 splits, which is pretty normal as a very efficient cooker. So let's go ahead and check our ribs, and I'm guessing we're probably gonna spritz them. Those are looking really, really good. So at 2 hours, there's very little meat pullback from the bone there, as you can see. But I can also look at the surface and say it's time to spritz these. And what I'm using for my spritz today is a mixture of a raspberry vinegar and water. 5 parts water to 1 part raspberry vinegar. Let's go ahead and give these a spritz. All right, let's close our lid, let these keep smoking. We're gonna spritz them probably every half hour and we'll check them again in 2 hours. All right, we're at the 4-hour mark, and this is the first time that I really want to check for tenderness with what I like to do, the flex test. I've just got my tongs here. I'm going to slide it under the center of this rack of ribs and lift. We got some flex, but not nearly enough. Same thing in the back. If these were baby backs, they'd be done, but they're full spare ribs, a lot of meat on there, a lot of connective tissue. Let's give them another spritz, then get this closed, let them keep going. And we'll check these again in about an hour. All right, we are at the 5-hour mark. Let's check our ribs. Now we're starting to get a little more pullback on the bones here, but I know we're not done yet. Let's do another flex test. A little bit more, not much, but a little bit. Back's got a little bit more there. So I'm going to give these another spritz and we're just going to keep going. So when you're doing no wrap ribs, this can be the process where you just keep checking for tenderness. I'll probably start probing at the 6-hour mark to see how the meat is doing between those bones. So I'll see you back here in about an hour. All right, we are at the 6-hour mark. Time to check these ribs and I'm going to probe them for tenderness. Let's go right here and see. Still a little bit of resistance. Doesn't surprise me. Check back here. I think these have about maybe half an hour to go. And for me, that's perfect because I want to put a little bit of sauce on these right now. I'm just using this Kinder's Cali Gold barbecue sauce. And at this point, I'm also letting my temperature fall down a bit. I'm going to try and keep it below 250, probably closer to 220, 225. Because when you're going unwrapped for this long and your rub has some sugar in it, mine is brown sugar pepper rub, you can get some darkness to it, as you can see. It's not burned, it just gets darker. So I'm just going to bring the temperature down a bit to keep that color from deepening anymore. So I'm going to close this up. We're going to go for about 30 more minutes at that lower temperature, and I think we'll probably be done then. All right, we are at the 6.5-hour mark here. We've had that glaze on there for half an hour. Let's check our ribs. So after probing those for tenderness 30 minutes ago, I have a sense that they're going to be done now, so I don't need to check them again. This is just one of those things you get used to when you do ribs enough. About 6.5 hours unwrapped for spare ribs. It's pretty normal. Could be longer, could be 7 hours, could be less, could be 6 hours. But somewhere in that 6 to 7 hour range, my experience with spare ribs unwrapped, that's what you're going to get. So I'm going to go ahead and get these off, get them inside, let them rest for maybe 15 or 20 minutes, and then we'll have a taste. All right, here we go. Here is our rack of ribs. I've got one of them set here. Really good color on these. And again, if you want less of a dark color on ribs that you're going to leave unwrapped, then a rub with, say, brown sugar in it would not be the way to go, because you do get a little bit darker with that. It's not burned, it's just darker. It's almost like bark developing on brisket. So let's go ahead and cut some ribs here. Now, usually I'm very protective of this side. I don't like to mess it up by turning it over, but let's just turn it over and cut it the easy way so we know where the bones are. So it looks like we're going right here. Let's see, let's turn it back over. Ooh, nice. A little bit left here. Ah, nice and juicy. Very happy with those. Now, as I mentioned with every video I've done with ribs, especially baby back ribs, I don't like fall off the bone ribs. I like ribs that have some bite to them, where you take a bite and the meat pulls away. So let's see how I did here. I'm going in because it's time to taste. Those are really, really good. Oh man, the hickory smoke flavor, which I love, especially on ribs and pork. If you get a chance to give a little bit of glaze at the end of your ribs, one of the reasons for that is that's moisture, and smoke loves moisture. So any of that hickory flavor from the smoke is going to attach itself to that moisture and give you that sort of last minute punch of hickory, and boy is it here. That brown sugar pepper rub, I really like that. That was one of the ones I made up, and I've done it on a bunch of different ribs, and I've had people make it and say they really, really like it. It just works well with pork. Brown sugar for that sweetness, pepper for just a little bit of a kick, and on this, I really, really like it. Total cook time on these was 6.5 hours. As I mentioned, totally expected for spare ribs when you're not wrapping them. In all honesty, if I'm doing ribs, I prefer to wrap them, but sometimes you just don't want to. You want an easy day where you're just gonna put things on the grill or smoker and let them go. Or maybe you don't have foil, you run out. It happens. And this is a completely viable alternative to doing it with a wrap. Comes out terrific. So those are no wrap ribs. Super easy to make. You can do it on the kettle, you can do it on the pellet grill, you can do it on the offset smoker. You can do it just about anywhere. You just gotta give it that time, give it some good seasoning. At the end, give it a glaze to allow those smoke particles to attach and give you that extra little punch of whatever wood smoke you're using, because it's fantastic.